Diablo 4 and Path of Exile are both ARPGs, but each caters to a very specific audience and are built quite differently by their respective developers. However, that doesn't mean my personal choice, Path of Exile, cannot win a decent chunk of people brand new to the action RPG genre over to it, especially if they're already tired of Diablo 4. Let's see if I can entice you. Presently, after playing Diablo 4 through and reaching the early stages of endgame, I'm confident in at least one system PoE can steal, and two it definitely needs to stay the hell away from. This video focuses on one of the latter, Diablo 4's endgame dungeon loop. Instantly, I know a good chunk of the D4 community will agree. Curious about what D4's endgame looks like up against Path of Exile? Let's go! This is not a secret. Diablo 4's dungeons are horrendous. Blizzard should have stolen Path of Exile's mapping system, plain and simple. As they're currently implemented, endgame dungeons in Diablo 4 play out as follows. You find a sigil. You can use the sigil to teleport to the entrance of a nightmare dungeon. By the way, you couldn't do this when D4 launched. You had to run through the open world to the dungeon itself. Nightmare sigils have positive and negative modifiers on them that affect the nightmare dungeons. These are known as afflictions. They also have their own set of tiers, ranging from tier 1 to tier 100. Each tier provides better loot and experience than the last. Plus, enemies are tougher. These nightmare dungeons reuse the dungeons of the base game, only adding the afflictions on top of them. No new mechanics. The blatant friction and repetition within nightmare dungeons are extreme problems. When you enter a nightmare dungeon, you need not just kill the monsters and kill the boss to complete it. Instead, you'll have a certain objective. Pick up and return a set of bloodstone shards. Save a group of prisoners. Kill every enemy in a certain area, kill certain enemies, collect resources from them, and use the resources to enter the next area. Pull a set of levers. You must complete these objectives to advance and eventually reach the boss of the dungeon. The friction here is extremely high. Once you finish the objectives, you can fight the boss and end the nightmare dungeon. However, the bosses of these dungeons are not varied. Even though there are 100 plus dungeons, the layouts, environments, bosses, and enemy types are not varied. There's likely less than 15 different bosses you can fight at the end of your nightmare dungeons. Even though Diablo 4 and games similar to it are meant to be grindy games, the repetitiveness here is too much. I grew tired before even grinding nightmare dungeons just with the base repetitive dungeons themselves. I was shocked at how difficult it was to enjoy them, at how Blizzard seemed to go with so many MMO elements in this core loop of D4's endgame. Inevitably, I compared the dungeons to Path of Exile, a game I do not grow tired of playing endlessly every league. Let's compare Diablo 4's nightmare dungeons, the pinnacle repeatable endgame content, to maps and the Atlas of Worlds in Path of Exile. Firstly, I know Path of Exile has had years to fine-tune its endgame. Maps have existed in PoE since the beta days, and the Atlas arrived in late 2016. However, Diablo 4 could have used this incredible system as a basis instead of the MMO-inspired dungeon route they took. They've had years and years to develop and research this. In Path of Exile, maps are tradable, craftable items that can be used in a map device to open a set of 6 portals to a specific area from your hideout or a public town. Once you near the endgame in Act 8 of Campaign 1, they'll begin to drop for you, but you cannot use them until you unlock the map device after Act 10 and the epilogue. The portals they open allow you to access areas on the Atlas of Worlds, a sprawling planescape of different zones, bosses, and mechanics to interact with. Every league, the Atlas of Worlds contains 115 maps. Each map contains a unique tile set, a unique boss, a usual set of varied monster packs, and some specific items that can drop from it. There are more than 115 maps in Path of Exile, but each league cycles through the list, swapping up the pool every 3 to 4 months. With Path of Exile 2, this pool is bound to grow, or the existing maps and their unique qualities like bosses and monsters will be replaced by updated ones. The goal of every map is simple: kill monsters. To officially finish the map, you must kill the map's boss. That's it. Additionally, each map can host a variety of extra content. Much of this content was first introduced via a Path of Exile league. Diablo 4 players, think of this content, at least initially, like the Butcher randomly entering your dungeon. At the start of your mapping journey, much of this content will spawn randomly like the Butcher, but as you progress through the Atlas of Worlds, completing more maps, you're able to mold the content you play via the Atlas passive skill tree. Ah yes, the Atlas passive skill tree, Path of Exile's second massive skill tree. Every time you complete a new map on the Atlas of Worlds, you're awarded with another point to spend on the tree. When you complete epilogue quests and objectives, like slaying the Black Star or conquering the Maven's 10-boss gauntlet, you're rewarded with more points on the tree. The tree allows you to sculpt your maps in the Atlas of Worlds, adding new layers of content onto the already diverse 115 map plane that is the Atlas. Let's explore a few examples of content that can spawn randomly on your maps or be upgraded and changed by the Atlas passive skill tree. And please, don't be intimidated. All of this might sound complex, but if you chill, read, and play, it's quite understandable and intuitive. It just takes a bit more focus than what you might currently be encountering in Diablo 4. We're going to look at 4 possible content additions, ranging from simple to deep. Introduced in September 2016, the Essence mechanic spawns a powerful creature on your maps, encased in a crystal prison. You may click on it multiple times to release it, then fight it. Depending on the essences imbuing the creature, it will have different modifiers and abilities. These can be terrifying but simple encounters, especially as your character is just beginning maps. The monster will drop a set of essences which can then be used to craft strong items. This is one of the best ways to outfit yourself in decent rare gear early in the league, and always a decent crafting method. All league long, these essences remain valuable to those who craft, so you can trade them for currency or other items you might seek. Allocatable Atlas skills allow you to encounter at least one essence monster per map, ensure your essence monsters are imbued by a larger number of essences, and give you the chance to duplicate the essence monsters you encounter when cracking one open. Next, brought to Path of Exile in January 2021, the ritual mechanic is one of PoE's quintessential stand in a circle and kill monsters with a twist. When you find a ritual altar in a map, which can be one of many different varieties, you can interact with it to begin the encounter after killing enough monsters around it. These monsters are sacrificed to the altar, and once the encounter begins, they and all monsters slain in previous ritual encounters on that map respawn too. The more monsters you kill, the more tribute you gain for that ritual. You can spend this tribute on a bartering reward screen unique to that ritual. Every time you do a ritual in that map, you unveil more of the screen. Allocatable Atlas passive skills can allow you to reroll the rewards multiple times, ensure more rituals spawn per map, and greatly increase the tribute you gain from each ritual. Delirium hit Path of Exile during March 2020, giving us the possibility to literally add another layer to our maps. When Delirium spawns on your map, it takes the form of a mirror of Delirium. When you pass through the mirror, a gray fog encases your entire map that begins to pass through. It spawns brand new monsters, environmental objects, and adds a new reward possibility to the map. The more monsters you kill, the greater the reward by the time the fog rolls out. You're in a race to beat the mirror's fog and slay all the monsters in the map. Don't worry though, if you interact with extra content like ritual on the way, the fog's timer pauses. Allocatable Atlas passives increase the chance for special Delirium-only bosses to spawn, spice up their rewards, and change the speed at which the fog roils. Finally, the most controversial crafting mechanic in Path of Exile, Harvest, was first brought to the game in June 2020 and has received a slew of changes since. No matter, it remains an interesting, engaging mechanic that alters our mapping experience entirely. When Harvest appears in your maps, it begins with a portal to the Sacred Grove. You may enter the portal and find Oshabi, alongside a set of crops to harvest in the garden. These crops come in 3 different forms, and a slew of different awesome monsters to fight. Truly, I love this style of creature. It's asset reuse done right. The slain monsters drop a special currency called Life Force that allows you to craft and reforge items using the Horticrafting Station. When used intelligently, it can yield amazing results. Allocatable Atlas passives change how crops spawn certain monster types, how often you might encounter the challenging harvest bosses, or whether or not a certain color of life force appears more often. That's a glimpse into Path of Exile's endgame player agency and customizability. Now, don't be frightened. Truly, like I said before, you can take Path of Exile at your own pace and learn this mammoth of a game one system at a time. It's deep, it's amazing, bundled with a great community, excellent developers, and a set of content creators who welcome folks as exiles with open arms. But please, don't be fooled. Diablo 4's current endgame dungeon system is shallow and will likely stay that way for a while. if not forever. Maybe they'll change something with the next paid expansion. If you're not a fan and have already grown bored, you're going to be bored during its Premier League, Season of the Malignant, too. Go for it, friend. Give Diablo 4 another chance, but if it doesn't capture you and scratch that dynamic ARPG itch, download Path of Exile for free right after and hop right in. Leave a comment below, post on the PoE subreddit, one of the many Discord servers out there, or just in the game's global chat. Here in Rayclast, we take absolutely everyone, including you. I'll see you on the shores of Rayclast sometime soon. Hey, you fellow exile or soon to be exiled individual, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you would appreciate seeing more content like it, subscribe now. You see all these exiles on screen, beached, totally sane, and unhinged. They help the channel grow with their direct support. If you would like to increase the quality and cadence of this content, join my Patreon or become a channel member now. Additionally, check out these juicy videos on your screen. Every minute you watch helps the channel grow. To everyone who watched until this ultimate moment, Tala Moana.